Hello, everyone. This is David Stark from WatcherPass.com, your website for movie reviews, interviews, and recommendations. Today, I'm joined by Alyson Richards, the writer of The Retreat, which is releasing in theaters and on VOD on March 21st, 2021. We're going to talk to her in just a second, but first, let's check out the trailer. And while you're watching, if you can like and subscribe to this channel, that would be fantastic. It helps me out a lot. Thank you.
Okay, tell me a little bit more about this place that we're going to.
According to their profile,
Let me guess, they're excited to share their little slice of heaven.
we're here.
Wow, nice place. What? I just saw someone. Someone was watching us. Oh my god.
So thank you so much for joining me. This is Alyson Richards, the writer and the producer of The Retreat, which is releasing in theaters and on VOD on May 21st, 2021. So I read the notes, but I'd love to hear kind of a deeper understanding of the inspiration for this film. It sounded like it was from a wilderness trip where you kind of realize how kind of unsettling it can be to be out in the wilderness by yourself. Is that or with a small group? Is that kind of where this came from?
Yeah, so I was actually staying at a really amazing, adorable retreat. It was in the middle of nowhere. It was so cute and really quite picturesque and serene, except it was also totally creepy because we never saw our hosts, but we constantly felt like we were being watched. And there was like a nice welcome note for us, but we would leave and go for walks, and when we would come back, things would appear. And so it was just, we had this constant feeling of being surveyed, and started to just feel really creeped out by the whole thing.
That sounds like the premise of a great horror movie. That
right?
That sounds like,
there you go. So that was kind of the genesis of the plot, is just sort of thinking like, and I have a very active imagination, so I'm clearly sometimes dark. So I just kind of went into all these different scenarios of what, who could these people be? What could they want? Why are they, I think they were probably trying to just give us some privacy, but who's to say? But there was also some stuff that happened that was just, we got this beautiful basket of food delivered. But when I picked up, the loaf of bread, there was bugs all over the bottom of it. So there was also just sort of these creepy elements that kept happening to us.
I mean, they were being good hosts. They were only coming out of the walls when you were gone to clean up and pick up. It's just, yeah, they're very,
exactly.
very thoughtful.
Exactly.
That isn't so. It's such a tough. It's so tough because I'm sure. Yeah, you're right. They were just trying to be good hosts and give you privacy, but it's weird when stuff just.
But it was creepy.
Yeah. So that's an awesome genesis for this film. Did you kind of start writing it then? Did you come back and kind of reflect more on it? What was that writing process like?
Sure. Yeah, it actually took a lot. I mean, I sort of, I did a couple different iterations of this project before landing on the direction that it ended up being. So I would kind of come up with some ideas. I wrote even a couple of first drafts of different versions of it, but never really felt like it was quite right. And then a couple years ago, probably about 4 years ago, wrote the first draft of this version of the script, and then just started digging in and, going a bit deeper with each pass after that.
Very cool. Did you take any more retreats while you were doing it? Did you go do some?
Oh, always.
Research?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I would go to the woods to write for sure. Did a lot of camping trips. Yeah. Tried to kind of immerse myself in that, to find the fear for inspiration for sure.
And, so when the email came out, it's Pat Mills' lesbian slasher film. And I was intrigued. I was like, this is interesting. I wonder how that's going to be. And then I think what caught me the most about this film is just how normal, like how it was a good slasher, but all the characters were very normal. I don't know what I thought. Maybe I thought that, I don't know, they would be wearing flannel and have a tool belt. Like I didn't know what to expect from like a lesbian slasher movie. But I guess I loved that the characters just felt like normal horror characters who, were put in this terrible situation. Is that kind of how you thought writing it? Did you have other iterations that were, I don't know, maybe the characters are more out there? They just felt like good, well fleshed out characters.
Yeah, I mean well, thank you, and it's fun. Part of what I think my inspiration was sort of dual. There was sort of this the genesis of the plot, which came from the trip that my wife and I took, where we felt like we were being watched. But also too, I was as a longtime horror fan, I was really getting frustrated with the way that queer characters, and particularly female queer characters, were portrayed in movies. I remember watching High Tension, that French film. That was kind of also one of around the idea where Pat and I were talking, we're like, oh, let's make a gay horror movie. That'd be really fun. You know, and the High Tension is such a great film, except, you know, a big part of, you know, the big, you know, twist is like, she's crazy and gay. So I feel like I really wanted to, what's that?
Spoilers.
Spoilers. So I think there was an active want to do something different than that. And I think honestly, again, being a genre fan, being a horror fan, and watching a lot of, you know, kind of camp gay characters or stock gay characters, as you said, sort of the flannel with the tool belt. And I think it was, you know, my life, and certainly all of the people that are in my community don't always fit into that, you know, those stereotypes. So I think it was important to me that they were sort of a well-rounded, fleshed out characters.
Yeah, no, I agree, and you know, that's true with every character. But you know, I think you're right that queer characters tend to kind of fall into those tropes, you know, intentionally or unintentionally, just kind of how they're represented on screen.
Yeah.
And I think it's also, you know, a poignant point that you said it's a good time for more representation in horror, and especially more representation of people that you know, just they don't, you know, they are queer, but they also are normal characters as well. You know, I think it's strange because you know, I feel like horror is a very accepting place. I spoke with the director of Spiral. I don't know if you saw that film.
I haven't seen it yet. It's on my list. I can't wait.
It's good. Well, spoiler: the two male characters kiss in the film.
Okay,
just
nice.
as the two female characters kiss in this film, and it struck me like when that happens, you're like, this is kind of a big deal. But then you're like, it really shouldn't be a big deal. Like, it's just kind of how life is right now.
For sure. No, absolutely. And that's the thing. And I think also too, I totally agree that, I mean, horror fans are so progressive. I feel like it's such a welcoming genre. Like there's no fans like horror fans. Horror fans are the best fans, I think, out of a movie going audience. So I think, and there's a lot of queer horror fans. And so the fact that there aren't more, queer horror films out there, I mean, I hope they just keep coming. Be awesome.
Yeah, no, more horror is always great, and
yeah,
you know, very different horror is even, you know, better.
Definitely.
So you had the script written, and so I guess, you know, you're also the producer, so I assume you kind of helped shuffle this along and got this film made. You know, what did you do after you had the script written? It sounds like you had talked to the director while you were creating this film. So, you know, what was the process to get this movie made? Were there any roadblocks because of the queer nature of the characters, or was it pretty smooth sailing?
Yeah, I mean, I think producing a movie is never smooth sailing. That's sort of the I dream of that day. Yeah, so so Pat Mills and I, this is actually our third collaboration. So we've made 3 features together. The first 2 he wrote and directed. This is the first one that I wrote and he directed. So we were really, you know, we developed this in tandem. So there was very much sort of, you know, we'd go back and forth on what we were thinking. And then we ended up partnering with Lauren Grant from Clique Pictures. She came on as a producing partner, which was amazing. She's fantastic. And then we, you know, we took the project to the Frontiers co-production market at Fantasia. And that was kind of a turning point because that was a very, I mean, that's a great genre market, but it's also, again, I think that people in horror, like the horror audience and the horror market, tended to see sort of the value in it. So once we did that program and that market, that was when sort of all the pieces really started to come together for the financing. But you know, as I said, it's never smooth sailing. But once we got it up, it was, you know, we got there.
Yeah, that's awesome, and it's great that you had the experience before to kind of shepherd it along, you know, despite any road bumps that came along.
Yeah, exactly.
One thing I always like asking writers is, you know, did you have any input on the casting, and did the characters that were eventually cast, were those similar to how they looked in your head, or did you not even kind of try to envision them because you know that eventually they will be cast with a person and that might ruin your vision of what it looked like, or tweak the vision of what it looked like?
Yeah, I mean, this was unique because I was also one of the producers. I definitely had a say in the casting, which was great. And I'm so thrilled with the cast that we ended up assembling. I love casting, and it's one of my favorite parts of the process. I have so much respect for actors because it's something I really can't do. And I think that the way they're able to put themselves out there, it's just phenomenal. It's funny. I really wanted some of the villains I think we have this idea of our, or certainly there's like kind of like the boogeyman idea of a villain. And I really wanted it, to be a bit more of sort of, the affable, good looking guy next door. And so I think with Aaron Ashmore, he was somebody I definitely had in mind for one of the villains. Yeah, I think beyond that, I was pretty open with casting and, kind of open to seeing what people were able to bring to the roles.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm glad that you said you like casting. I know some people just hate it because they're like, there's so many good actors and you can't pick them all, or you've got, there's just little idiosyncrasies, right? Like a person could do a great audition, but just not be right for the role for whatever reason.
Absolutely. And then it becomes about chemistry, right? Because you have to cast, especially for this film, it was about casting a couple. And so we cast Tommie-Amber Piri first, and then it was a matter of finding the right sort of pairing, because you have to make sure you have the right chemistry and that they can kind of that they perform well together, and they were great.
Yeah, no, it was a great couple. It was a very kind of natural couple, so that was a good cast on your part.
Yeah, okay, thanks.
And now I'm going to go into like a spoiler. I'll try to keep it less spoilery, but I just want to, warn people watching. So the ending, the very ending after, they escape, it felt like a little sinister. I wasn't sure if that was intentional. Was there ever like another version where maybe you had a surprise, like, oh my gosh, this is another group of killers? Because I felt at unease when they were in that truck, and I wasn't sure if maybe there was another version where they they then get recaptured or something.
It's funny. I love hearing what people think of the ending, because they're sort of intent, and then filmmaking is so collaborative, right? Because I wrote it, Pat directed it, Lauren produced it, and then you have the actors who are bringing what they are bringing to it, and of course, everything. So, I mean, for me, I feel like it's a complicated ending, which is life. And so I think I liked the idea that again, going back to kind of that boogeyman, I love the idea. I was finding, as everything's kind of, the world has kind of shown us some, there's a big division happening in the world right now, I think, politically, kind of, and one of the things that I kept finding surprising is how many very sort of, average looking people were participating in these events that I would find shocking, so it wasn't, if you even sort of look at, not that this is about, necessarily, the riot at the Capitol, but if you look at that and you look at a lot of those people on their regular day, you'd walk by them on the street and wouldn't really think anything of it. Yep. And so I think with sort of, what we fondly call the truck nuts guys because of their accessory, I feel like what I liked about that is that it, I feel like they were there in that moment, they are there to sincerely help. So they are, there to help these people at the side of the road. But, it doesn't mean they're saints. So I think it's complicated. If that answers your question.
Just like life.
Exactly.
So now I'd like to move in. I call it the lightning round. This is very lightweight questions that relate to the film and the characters. I want to see how your experiences relate to what happened in the film. You can feel free not to answer them. I won't be offended, but I try to keep them very answerable.
Okay.
The first question is, how do you make your coffee?
Americano, black.
Okay. And oh God, when I saw that first coffee making scene, I cried. It was so sad. But people can watch that for themselves. Have you ever changed a tire?
I've participated in the tire changing.
That's good. Yeah. Supervising is good.
Supervising, yeah. I've been there when one was changed.
Have you ever been hunting?
No.
Okay. What is the strangest thing you found in the woods? And maybe in this case, it was a loaf of bread with bugs on it. I don't know.
Amazing. Strangest thing in the woods, a dilapidated cabin filled with deer poo.
Oh, okay. Well, there's a little extra surprise there.
Yeah, yeah.
That is, were you just hiking and you found it? Were you looking, or I don't know, I guess.
Yeah, kind of looking, knowing it was there, and then finding it, and then, you know, you kind of have this fantasy of, we actually thought we would shoot there, and I sort of even wrote it into the script at one point because we were looking at this property, but then realizing just how unsanitary it was going to be for everybody to go into it. So
I talked to someone who made a film also in a cabin, and they said they found human teeth in their cabin. So, you know, it's always
that's
fun.
next level. That's next level. That would definitely be. Was that the inspiration of the movie, or was that just an additional thing they found in it?
Nope, that was when they were starting to get shooting. They found that there.
Creepy.
Yep. So the next one is: have you ever set a bear trap?
No.
Okay. No, that makes sense.
Can I go back and answer one other one?
Yeah, of course.
Can I get backward? So actually, when Pat and I were scouting, we were very early on when we were still kind of talking through the idea. We were on a walk and we came across a severed deer head suspended on yellow twine in the woods. And that is actually the deer that we used in the movie.
That is very creepy. Wow.
Yeah, totally. And,
yeah.
and we both screamed.
That's a great inspiration for that scene. Yeah.
That's totally the inspiration. And then on the day when we were shooting it, the prop wasn't quite right that had been brought, because it was actually a moose and it was too big. It just didn't work. So we went and found the actual like deer head that we had found, and it was still hanging there. And so we brought it in and we used it for the scene.
Oh, that's wow. Okay.
Yeah.
And then you cleansed yourself with some sort of magic or some sort of ritual.
Yeah. We just hope for the best.
Yeah. Last question is: if you could plan a couples or relaxation retreat, where would you go?
Oh gosh, Palm Springs.
It's a good place. Nice and relaxing.
Yeah, totally.
Relaxation and shopping all in one is perfect.
Exactly. Warm and relaxing.
Well, awesome.
Away from the woods.
Yes, away from wide open views, essentially.
Totally. Very manicured.
Well, awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining me. The film is The Retreat. It comes out in theaters and on VOD on March 21st, 2021. Thank you so much.
Great. Thanks. Take care.
That was Alyson Richards, the writer of The Retreat, which is releasing in theaters and on VOD on March 21st, 2021. So you can check it out in theaters, or maybe rent it and go out in the wilderness and watch it there. It'll be very fitting. If you like this interview, please like and subscribe to this channel. It helps me out a lot to make sure all my new interviews go straight to you. And as always, please go to watchyourpast.com for all your movie reviews, interviews, and recommendations. Thank you.